Hey everyone, it is Dave. Welcome into module number 3. This week we have a really exciting time period that we're covering, which is the Middle Renaissance. This is a time period during the 1400s when many of the artistic techniques that we're familiar with today are invented. These are techniques like amplified perspective, linear perspective, atmospheric perspective, chiaroscuro, just to name a few. And this is also a time period where we have a number of artists that we learn about that we don't really know offhand. I mean, we're familiar with people like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Raphael, but these artists that we're covering this week are really the ones that inspired those future artists. People like Donatello and Masaccio, Nani da Banco, and it is really just a fun chapter. We're also going to be learning one of the most important techniques, which is linear perspective, and I'm going to show you how to draw two-dimensional forms and using perspective, making them into three-dimensional forms. It's really kind of a cool trick, so join me. We're going to head over to the Canvas site. I'll walk you through module number 3. All right, here we are on the Canvas site. We're going to begin with module number 3 this week, and of course each new module gets placed on top so it's more current. None of these modules will ever disappear, so you can always scroll down if you need to go back and look at previous material. Up at the very top, we have the video you're watching right now, followed by the introduction. We'll take a quick look at that. And for the summary, I just told you about what's going to happen this week and the material that we are covering. There's one lecture, Italy in the 15th century. You want to make sure you can note the advancements in art during the 1400s and how this art differs from that of the previous century during the 1300s. You want to be able to create and identify works in linear perspective and understand how atmospheric perspective is created by the means of color contrast. We have 2 assessments this week. The one you're turning in is the perspective drawing, and then we also have Journal 3. The first set of journals is due during the week of the midterm in module number 7. So here is our lecture. We've got about an hour-long lecture on Italy in the 15th century, the study guide, and then we'll take a quick look at the further exploration section. We do have a reading for you to do, Portraiture in Renaissance and Baroque Europe. This is an optional book, but it's kind of cool because it's like a full text that is quite famous, Perspective Made Easy by Norling. And this is a book that's been around like since the 1950s. I have a copy of it. It is the Bible, if you will, for perspective. And feel free to download a copy of it if you're kind of into perspective or art. I do have one video on how one-point linear perspective works. I'm going to teach one way during the lecture, but this is a little different way and helps to create an interior space. And this is perhaps the most important sculpture created during the century, during that 15th century. So make sure to watch that. That will appear on the midterm exam. After the lecture and further exploration section, I'm actually going to run down to the journal entry real quick. It is a heavy perspective week, but this is a quick video, maybe about 20-25 minutes. My friend Ross King there is going to tell you about perspective and the history of it. It can get kind of into the weeds because he's very into this subject matter, but go ahead and watch it. And then just write a short reflection, anything from a half page to a full page on the information you learned about during this particular video. The last thing we need to do is a perspective drawing. And this is a fairly important project because it is worth 30 points. So it is 6% of your overall grade. And what I'm going to have you do is draw out some two-dimensional forms, squares, triangles, rectangles, trapezoids. Stay away from anything fancy like circles or stars. Those are really difficult to create. And I'm going to have you create those two-dimensional forms and make them three-dimensional. Now for the required media, you can use drawing paper. That would be best. If you only have printer paper, that can work, but it's a lot more difficult to do this project on a smaller sheet of paper. You should use colored pencils for this project, a straight edge, and of course an eraser. Now you have some different options to choose for this project. I'm expecting that 95% of you will complete option number 1. That is all I'm asking you to do, and that will get you 30 points. I have step-by-step directions on how to create these shapes, also a link to a short video that shows how to create one of these forms. The second option is to create an interior scene. I also have a video on how to create an interior scene. If you're already into art and you're familiar with perspective, I have a lot of students that have been engineering majors and they're very used to perspective. And you want to do something fancy like this, you're more than welcome to. The only things I need are 7 objects, whether it's option 1, 2, or 3. I need 7 objects that you make into perspective. For the submission, you're going to submit 2 images. One of your drawing in progress. It does not have to be at this point of progress. And then over here, this is the finished work. You're of course going to submit that, and that's what I'm going to be grading. The preliminary work allows me to kind of see how you created these forms to begin with, just in case there's a mistake made. I can kind of pinpoint this is what happened. Please keep in mind that this project should take you about a couple hours to complete. If you're spending 4 or 5 hours on this project, that's way too long. So just keep it at 2 hours at the most. And shading should be even like this here. You do not have to do all fancy and get it dark near the lines or the back of the shape. You can just do a fine, even shading. Please make sure that you shade with the edge rather than the point of the pencil, and shade in 2 directions. The project is due on the 22nd of September. You do have all the way until the 29th if you'd like to turn it in late. And this is the rubric that I'm using for this project. I'm just making sure you've followed directions, creating those 7 shapes. The concept of linear perspective was learned. Attention to craft and application of technique. This is where neatness comes in. The overall design aesthetic. And of course, problem solving, because art isn't always easy. And that's how I'll grade it, is through this rubric here. And with that, that is everything for this week already. So I will see you shortly with module number 4.